Hey YouTube, Rob Lawler with Lawler Artistry. And today we're going to start our Christmas orders. I have two hunting knives that need to be done and a chef's knife. Um, just give you a quick overview of the materials, um, and then I'll do one video of me making one of the knives, and it'll all be put into this video from start to finish. But I won't bore you with every single step that I do. Basically, just little clippets here and there of what's going on and what part we're doing. Um, and I'll bring you down to the bench here in just a minute, and we'll go over the materials, where I get them, and what these are going to look like. And then we'll do our showcase piece, which is back here. It's a chef's knife, Japanese style. And that one is up for sale. So if you're interested in it, get a hold of me on here or on Facebook at Lawler Artistry on Facebook. So, okay, yeah, we'll bring you down close to the bench and we'll get started. All right, be right back. So here we are down at the bench. We'll just start right here with this knife. It's going to be a mono steel blade hunting knife. It'll have the person's initials etched into the blade. We've got black and blue handle material. The person receiving it is a police officer, and they wanted like the thin blue line kind of theme for the handle. It's a mossy oak breakup Kydex, and I get my Kydex from knifekits.com. I'm not a paid sponsor for any of the materials you see. It comes out of my pocket and is returned when paid for with a knife. So this is this knife, and that is going to a son, and this is going to a daughter. The same person ordered both. Again, mossy oak, breakup pink. We've got pink rivets that'll go around it, which are really kind of cool. And then we have the pink and white handle material. And I get my handle materials from LS Grips. Great company to work with. They do great colors, and they stand by their product. And again, I'm not a paid sponsor. This is just where I get my materials and if I like them or not. And then again, from LS Grips, this will be a chef's knife. This customer ordered a purple and white set. So there's 3 knives here that need to be done by Christmas. So again, if you are looking for a piece and want a Christmas idea or something, please get to me right away so I can get started on it, because all this stuff has to be ordered, shipped in, stuff like that. And so now with that, we'll just go down to the showcase piece. I'll just move this stuff out of the way and keep recording. I'll go to the showcase piece and show you what it is. This is a Japanese style kitchen knife. It has the blood groove down the center. And I do that for 2 reasons on these specific knives. One is to make the knife a little bit lighter, because it's a decent sized knife. You're going to be able to cut a lot of vegetables and stuff with it. But also, it is to release the food when you cut through it. A piece of onion or whatever, it'll release off the blade and not stick to it. This one here has etchings done on it. It is the dragon, the Japanese dragon, and on the back side, it has the Japanese writing, and that says "Follow your dreams" right down the center. And now the handle. The handle is 7,000-year-old bogwood oak from Russia, marble wood, another piece of bogwood oak from Russia, mahogany, and on the butt cap is also bogwood oak from Russia. And I have my maker's mark right here, the LA. And so we still have room to personalize on this side if somebody wants their initials put in on it. and make a great Christmas present. I believe this is hand sanded up to 2000 grit. So again, this is one of my more higher end pieces. Yes, it's a mono steel blade, but there's a lot of, expensive pieces of wood in here, and also the etchings. Those all take time and got to be done by hand. So, this will be a little bit more pricey, but it is a beautiful piece and it is ready for use and it is ready for sale. Very sharp. We're talking razor sharp. I wouldn't run my finger down that at all. So yeah, this piece is up for sale. If you are interested in it or know somebody who is, get a hold of me on here or at Lallier Artistry on Facebook, and yeah, we'll make it happen. So great Christmas present. So okay, on that note, we'll get started on making the knives. First thing we're gonna do is get our steel cut. These will not be hand forged all the way. They're going to be mostly cut. Because like I said, these knives are my lower end pieces. These are the kind, I don't want to say cheap. They're pieces that are made that everybody can afford. So we'll get the pieces cut. We will get them to shape, and then after that it'll be heat treat, and then after that it'll be tempering, hand sanding, getting everything fit to finish. Then it'll be sheaths and sharpening. My logo and etchings and stuff like that, then it'll be sharpening. That's the very last thing I do, is sharpen the blades, because I don't want to cut myself while working on something. So on that note, let's get started, and yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back at our bench. I got the knives ground to shape. Next, we've got to drill holes for our pins and our handle scales to attach to, take some weight out of the blades. And then it's straight on to heat treat. Really, I'm not going to show you everything that I do here, just because, like I said, once you see one knife made, they're all made the same way. Unless you're doing Damascus or a completely hand-forged piece that somebody might offer. So I'll bring you in and you can take a look and see what we're going with. So we have the pink knife blade. It's a little bit smaller in the handle just because it's going to go to a woman. They tend to have smaller hands. And then up here is the male's knife, the son's knife. And then down here we have our chef's knife, ready for drilling and bevels put in. So yeah, we have to put in the bevels and everything else for these knives. So once those are done, we'll come on back and take a look at them, and you'll really start to see the knife shape take place. Like I said, it's just right now it's spending a lot of time at the belt grinder and getting that all done. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, so we're back from the drill press, getting all the holes drilled in the handles and stuff like that. Now on the hunting knives, I've already gone ahead and done the bevels, marked them out, ground them. These are 80 grit, and this is pre-heat treat. I want to take as much mass off this metal before it's hard, because it's less wear and tear on your belts and stuff like that. Now I like to try to keep my edges about the thickness of a dime. That seems to be a good spot, so it doesn't warp or have a chance at cracking and all that stuff. Holes drilled for the epoxy to go through, and for the handle scales, this is for something to grip and grab onto. Plus the pinholes are ready to go. Right here's the pinhole. So that is all. Those two are all set and ready for heat treat. Now the chef's knife I'm working on, yes, all drilled, ready to go. That takes weight out of the handle, and yes, she's pretty thick. But we'll bring that right down on the belt grinder And again, bring this edge down to the thickness of a dime. Now, the way I find center is I take a black magic marker and I fill in the whole thing. Get her all filled in nice and nice. Like that. So the edge is all black now. I don't know if you all can see it or not, but then I take a drill bit about the thickness of the blade. Try to get it as close as possible. And that's got a point on it. So the point is then scribed along the blade. And you do that on a flat surface. The flattest surface you can get. We're just going to do this table. Like I said, I mostly eyeball these because I've been doing it for a while. But for anybody who's getting new into this and wants to do that, this is the best way to get your bevels evenly ground to a point. You know, if you try to do it, eyeball it and everything else, one side could be off the other and it doesn't look professional. So you want, and plus when you cut, you don't want to cut like this. You want to cut straight down. So I'm going to bring you down here where you can see what I'm doing. Yoink. Hopefully this time y'all don't tip over. You tipped over once before. So we're doing this again. Take 2. Drill bit. Knife edge. Lay it flat on the table along with flat with the drill bit and just scribe a line. I do it a couple times, make sure we got a good scribe line. Flip the blade over. And do it again. You see, we're scratching up our table, but that's because this is a work table, and we already talked about why we're doing it, why we're using it. Now, I can see it, but I don't know if you guys can. There's a really shiny spot direct center of the blade. It runs the whole length. All right, so now what we do now is, you know, you can go as far as layout if you want. You can spray paint this whole blade if you want, you know, like a gray, quick drying paint. And you can lay out your whole lines, your grind lines, all that stuff. I don't do it. It just takes too long. But I do have this 2 little chunks of aluminum. And they're both flat on one side, and that's the side that I use. I slide that up the blade, and I find where I want to put my plunge line. And I like to look down in here and be like, yep. Now you can offset these. You can have plunge lines that go like that if you want. I just typically keep them up and down on these lower end pieces just because it takes time to work your grinder and stuff like that with it. Now I usually only go about 1/8 of an inch up the blade, and I'm looking down inside to see where it's sitting. You know, and you can just eyeball it, make sure everything looks good and straight. Your pieces look good and straight. Tighten them down. You see, I'm off just a little bit, so I got to straighten that out. Make sure I'm still good here. Come in right about there. Make sure your pieces are good and straight. It's too much. Actually, that's not bad. I'll leave it right there. Tighten them down. Keep getting it off cockeyed here. This is why I do this freehand. I mean, this just takes a while. But for anybody who's getting into this, this is a piece that you really should invest in buying one, because they come with a carbide end and stuff like that. Carbide for the top, so you can't cut them with a file or your belt grinder. And then I tighten them down, make sure everything stays nice and flush. And now you've got a bevel jig. This is where you're going to start. And I always start at a 45 degree on the belt grinder and also when filing, just to get that edge where I need it. And then I can work the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and file these. and show you what I'm doing. And okay, we'll be right back. Okay, so over here at the leg vise, I've got it clamped in, and that's what's nice is I can actually use these for clamping force. Like I said, about a 45-degree angle, and I just put in the edge. Get it up through, get it started. Like I said, we're trying to just make the bevels. We're trying to establish that grind line where we want them to stop. Whoop, tipping. Just a little bit. Just nice about a leg vise. Now, if you're new to filing, filing only works in one direction. Pulling it backwards doesn't do nothing. File, pick, file, pick. And that helps keep your angle you want. Like I said, we're only doing about a 45. We're cutting in, and we're getting those bevels established. I'll move up just a little bit so my belt on my belt grinder has somewhere to ride. Okay, look at our a little bit more right there. That's that scribe line we're watching right there. We want to kind of file right down to it. We're going to call this side good. See, a few strokes and you'll have it done. Doesn't take long to get those established and in place. And then on the belt grinder, you can bump your belt or the knife right up to the platen where the belt is. And I'll show you that next, just so you know. So I'm going to go ahead, get these in, and we'll be back. Now, we're over here at the belt grinder. Sorry about the window in the background, but it's shop. I can only do so much. So yes, we have those. You can see it right there. We have them filed in. Now, you can actually use it right here. You can leave the file guide right on it if you'd like. Let me get the light out of the way so you can all see. You know, this belt's not running, so I don't have it set up. But once you have your belt set up to your platen, you can actually run that right along the side of your platen and do that if you want. Now, I find it gets in my way, so I take this off. You know, I've got my bevels established, so we know where it's got to be. Now, we got to get to the 45s all the way down this edge, about where those have finished. And we use those scribe lines. I think you can actually see it a little better now in here in the light. That middle scribe line, that's what we scribe to. And that'll leave about a dime's thickness. And that's what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and then we'll be grinding. Once I get that 45 in there on both sides, I'll come back and show you again. And then we just start working the bevels up. And that's as simple as that until you find where you want them. You don't want to do your final bevels now. You want your final bevels to be done after heat treat. You want as much mass in your blade as possible before the heat treat so you can deal with warps or cracks. If it cracks, chuck, start over again. But warps you can work with. You know, but the more meat in the blade, less chances of warpage. So we'll get this jig off. We'll get the sides grinded in at a 45. So it's 45-degree angle. You know, and work that as much, same amount of pressure that you put on. You want your pressure coming from your thumb. And you can go straight across, or you can bring her down. You bring her down, you're going to work that edge back farther. And I usually do that because I like the way that it looks. And you just do it on both sides. So on this side, same thing. Thumb goes here, pressure, 45. You know, and you work those bevels all the way up to where I do about 3/4 of the way up the blade with my rough grind bevels before heat treat. Then after heat treat, and the blade's cleaned back up and tempered and ready to go, then, you know, I'll work the lower grits. I'm doing this with an 80 grit. A lot of people do like 30, 40 grit to remove all the material. That's great, and it's fast. Thing is then you got all those 30 and 40 grit scratch marks to get rid of. And to save on hand sanding and stuff later, I just use 80 grit, and then go up to 100, 200, 400. And I usually stop at about 400. And then depending on what the customer wants for a finish, could be a belt finish, could be, a tumble finish, it could be hand polished up to 2000 grit. Depending what the customer wants is where we go to, and then we do the hand sanding. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this off to the 45s, and we'll be back. So we've got the edge geometry where we want it. Like I said, right to that center line. Everything looks good and crisp. Now it's working the blade, the bevels. This side's got to come up just a little bit. I can see it on the end because you got to look with your eyeball. So as I work, I'll probably work this side first, the one that's off just a little bit, so I know that everything will correct as I go. But yeah, the 45s are in it. Now it's a matter of working that bevel up. A little bit more in the 45 on the platen, start working this back and forth. And this is, like I said, we've got this established now. This is our center line. We know where the center of the blade is. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grind it, and then we'll be back and we'll be ready for heat treat. Okay, you can see I got the forge lit in the background, and the knives are actually in there. I just off to the sides in there. I do it spine up to, because it's a thicker part of the blade. I'm not too worried about the handle because I don't harden the handles. I like to keep them soft for flexibility and toughness. So we're waiting for them to come up to temperature, and temperature is non-magnetic. Once it's at non-magnetic, we're ready to go in the oil. So, all right, when it's ready, we'll be back. Okay, first knife is up to temp. Go ahead and get her in the oil. Shake it vigorously to break the vapor barrier, so that way the blade gets hard. Everything looks good. Set this over the side, let it cool down. And our second knife is just about ready. There you go, that's how you harden the blade. Next we'll temper it and make sure she's good to go. Test the hardness with a file, make sure it skates. Yeah, so okay, we'll be back with the next one, with the next part. Okay, so we're down here at my water quench nasty tank. You can see I've got it cleaned back up. You just do it on the belt grinder. You can see your bevels, everything like that. You see the shiny metal. So what we're looking to do is we're going to take the torch and we're going to run the torch up and down the spine until the colors start changing. And you want the spine to more bluish purple, and you just let that heat travel down by itself to this edge. And you want the edge to be like a straw color. And then I come back once I do it. I cool it off, make sure we're good to go, and then I come back and I do the handle, because some of that's actually gotten hard too. So we come back with the handle and we turn that into blue, purple, it doesn't matter. That's the handle, we want it soft. So I'll go ahead and show you what I do. So we got torch going, and we're just going to start, and I angle the torch up. Just keep running up and down that spine until we see the color change. And you got to do, I do both sides evenly, so I'll do this for a minute or two, flip it over, do the other side. That way you can kind of keep the heat even. And you can actually just dip underneath like this, come up around so you can watch the flame up against the back side. So, all right, it's going to take a minute. When we're done, we'll come back and you'll see the final result. Okay, we'll be right back, guys. So we're back here at the workbench. All three blades are hardened, tempered, and rough ground. So now they are fully functioning knives. They are no longer just a piece of steel. Um, I'll show you the colors and the temps right now. Now you can see the golds. Those are the colors you want for the edge, like a straw color, a gold. And there's a little bit of blue on the spine, which is fine. We want it to be just a little bit, you know, softer on the spine than we do the edge. That's why I keep the torch pointed at the spine of the knife the whole time. And once you see those colors start color changing, keep an eye on it, make sure it travels down enough, and then cool it. So here's the two hunting knives. And you can see I went right up into the handle and turned that blue. And that's a softer handle. Now it's flexible, but yet sharp. You know, on the blades themselves aren't sharp yet, but I'm saying is that they're flexible, but yet can hold an edge. So there's those two knives. And here is the chef's knife. You can see it purpley blue on the spine, and those colors just travel right down. As you heat this, the heat travels. So you want, you know, like I said, you want it to travel down, and then once it's there, cool it in water, done. Now you've got a softer blade, one that won't break in half if you try. So now we're on to finish grind, get the knives down to the final dimensions, get our bevels where we want them. I mean, because as I grind these in with the higher and higher grits, the bevels are going to move up. That's why we stop before our final bevel, where we want our final bevel. Now this one I'll probably bring all the way up because it's a chef's knife. We want it nice and skinny, nice and lightweight, so you can cut and chop and slice and all that stuff. Now the hunting knives will probably be real close. We're real close now where we want them, you know. So we'll bring them up just a little more with the finish sand work. I'll take these up to 400 grit. I'm at 80 grit now, and then we'll go, I think I got 120, 240, 400. And that's where we'll stop at 400, and then either hand sand or up to a final grit, depending on what the customer wants. I don't know how high they want to go. Or, you know, after the 400 grit, if you're doing a stone wash finish or something like that, you can pretty much stop, do the stone wash, and that's it. So we'll go from there and get her done, and we'll be back with the final grinds and the final looks. Then it's on hand sanding. So, okay, we'll be back, guys. So we've got the blades up to 400 grit, and then I Scotch-Brite this belt, the Scotch-Brite belt, and that's 400 grit. And you can see it's a nice finish, you know, but all the scratch patterns are going up and down because that's the way the belt runs. Some people like that finish, you know, that's what they like, and that's what they ask for, and that's what they get. I'm going to bring these up to at least probably 800, if not to 1,000, hand sanding. So that is the next fun trick. We'll get these hand sanded as we go. But you know, this is the time consuming part. This is where, you know, it's why you got to ask so much for some pieces sometimes. Like now, like these knives are, I think, $275 a piece. And some people would say that's low. It is, but I try to keep, you know, my market and my customers happy by offering a amazing piece at a really good price. No corners are cut, nothing like that. It's just, these are just the way I do things. These are my steps. Yeah, so we got to get these hand sanded and brought up. And yeah, we can show you that down in the basement, down my other workshop too. I have two workshops. One is for the heavy forging and the mess and everything else, and the other one is for finish work, grinding or hand sanding, handle material, stuff like that. You know, it keeps everything, metal dust and everything out of the wood if I'm working with wood, and you know, everything like that. Windex and WD-40 are your friends when it comes to hand sanding. So that's where we're going to go now. We're just going to do some hand sanding, and so we'll show you that next. We are at 600 grit. Nice, crisp plunge lines, and you can see, the scratch patterns, if I get the light just right, are going this way right now. And that's where I'm going to stop, because I've got to etch, I've got to do handle material, stuff like that, get that all down, and then we can go back and finish up the grits the rest of the way, make that nice etching marks, my logo and people's initials nice and crisp when you sand over top of them. So, and that's where we're going to stop with these knives, do our etchings, get handle materials cut, glued on, and that's just it. If you get anything else on there, now's the time to stop. Well, we'll get all the handle materials ready for glue up. We won't glue them up until everything is polished up to our final grits. So, okay, we'll be back with more. All right, bye guys. Okay, so the knives are sanded up to 600 grit. And that's where I stop. I stop there because I have to go back and resand everything and bring it up to like 2000 grit. But this is where I do my etching. Get it in now, so if there's any scratches that happen during, you can sand them out. Everything else. Now, the 3 pieces I'm working on are all set up and ready to go for etching. I'll bring you down on the bench, show you how I do it. It's real simple. You can see I have all 3 taped. I have the stencil laid out, and I'll just show you on one knife. That way, I don't got to bore you doing the same steps over and over and over again. Like I said, they're all the same. I do every knife the same way. It works. It's the fastest way I know of doing them. So we'll get you guys down the bench, and then we'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, we're set up on the bench, and I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. I have my salt water all set up. This is called electro etching. You use a car battery, one of the old styles. They work. The newer ones don't. Everything's taped off where I don't want the etching, but I've got the negative there for the stencil. So we'll go ahead and get our Mr. Clean pad soaked. Wring it out a little bit. Doesn't got to be perfectly wet. Now, I'm fortunate enough that I have a start button on mine, which really adds a deep, deep etch. And the longer you do this, the deeper the etch goes. So I like it to hold it because I want a nice, deep, dark etch. And you can hear it. Don't breathe this stuff. This stuff's not any good to breathe. You'll see it turning black. Just fine. We'll clean it up. And you can see how deep it is just by kind of looking. I go over it a couple times like that, and that's it. That's etched into the steel now. So now what I'll do next is I'll go to the next grit of sandpaper after I take this all off. And I'm at 600, so I go to 800 and just keep hand sanding until I'm all the way up to 2000 grit. Then it's put on handles and everything else, protect the blade, of course. But we'll clean that mark all up. If there's any little, mistake or something like that, you can clean it up with the sanding. Now I'll get these other 2 done, and then I'll show you what I do next to really make it last. So, okay, we'll get these done. We'll be back. All finished. So this one here, and this one here are the ones that we did for customers for Christmas.